What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to talk a lot about Axis Football 2016 and the future of 2017. There's so much to talk about, so this is going to be a very long video, probably the longest video I've made so far about Axis Football. So this is going to be very extensive. We're going to talk about a lot of things that need to be added to the game, things that have been added to the game. We're going to have like a retrospect of where the game's come from since 2015 and all that good stuff. So hope you guys enjoy. And we're going to get started right now with the state of the game right now and how it's improved since 2015. Okay, guys, let's just talk about 2015 for a minute. In 2015, we had absolutely no blocking interactions with the offensive line and defensive line. We had absolutely no logo mods for the teams. We couldn't customize the field. We had really bad graphics. The graphics are still not as great as they could be, but they've very much improved from last year. There was only one season. That was it. Now you can play multiple seasons, and it's still getting added onto. There were no moves for the running back. You couldn't spin, you couldn't juke, you couldn't dive. Of course, we still want the stiff arms and the hurdles and that kind of thing, but that's coming. But that's in this year's version. You can do those things. There's more animations now. There were hardly any animations last year. Of course, it's still got a long way to go. There's been multiple tweaks to the game as far as the kicking game and the extended customization for the game, the modding and things. And things are still getting added onto. I mean, this is a work in progress, and I can't say that enough. I'm going to use one analogy real quick because I just saw a comment on the feed for the last update that Danny made, and this guy was like, I'm sick of waiting. I'm tired of this. I'm off the train. I'm not going to support this game anymore. It's taking too long, etc. And I told the guys, like, you do know this is an indie developer that has hardly any funds and things, and he's done more than I thought he would do this year. I really have been impressed with what he's done this year. I didn't expect as much this year as we've gotten already, and he's still adding more and a few more updates. So he has far exceeded my expectations, especially with the failed Kickstarter and all that. But the guy doesn't get it. I mean, where does he think? People just think that you can crap out a football game. It doesn't work that way. I'm going to use the analogy real quick. He's trying to build a house by himself, basically. And these bricks are pretty damn expensive. But he's the only guy building this house. He's doing all the work himself. So imagine you're standing there and you got to brick this entire house by yourself. You got to mix all the concrete. You got to build all the studs. You got to pour the foundation. You got to do all this stuff by yourself, basically, or with a very small team. When you put it into that kind of perspective, you kind of appreciate what Danny has already done this year, from last year progress to this year. He's done a lot with very limited funds. So it's going to take time. It's going to take time to build this game because it's basically being built from scratch with very limited resources. So the community feedback has improved the game and continuing to improve the game. NBC 27 is adding some great feedback, and his feedback is going to be added in the next update, I believe, or one of the updates this year, about the hot routes and the defensive line moves. Danny has already told me that he's going to go with NBC 27's proposal. So that's cool. I mean, Danny listens. Danny listens to the community. He does. And the true fans of this game that want to see it built, he's going to build it the way we want. He's going to. So everything that we want, it's eventually going to get added into this game. Now, it's going to have to come pretty fast, though, pretty soon, because we got competition coming, which is a good thing. And it's only going to improve all of the games. So everybody's going to be pushing everybody. So you got Cal Anderson coming out. You got that Canadian football game coming out. I'm not sure about the IMV or whatever. Their Kickstarter's going on right now, and they've raised like $7,000 in a couple of days, but I don't think it's going to get to $850,000. There's no way it's going to get that high, and there's nothing to show for. I mean, they haven't shown us anything, so why really should we support something that they haven't even shown us anything? And are they even capable of running a development team and all this? I mean, these are just no names right now. They have to prove themselves first. Prove yourself to me first before asking for money. I mean, Danny at least is a developer in the indie, marketplace and all that. And he's been on Steam. He's been in the Flash Market. These guys have done jack shit. I mean, I'm not going to give them any money right now. Sorry. I mean, they got to show me something first. So, with all that being said, with competition coming next year, it's a good thing. So, but access is going to have to come up really quick. So we're going to talk about some things that really need to be added to this game quickly, first and foremost. And then we're going to go through a long list of things here. I got a list. While I'm at work, sometimes I have downtime with patients resting and everything, so I have nothing to do, or I've finished everything. So I'll write down commentary. I've worked on some of that. But I've made a list of things, just as they pop into my head, and they're going to be out of order. They're not organized in any way, so these are not really in the order that we need them. It's just things that I've wrote down, and I would like to get it out there for Denny to see. So let's get started with things that I would like to see added to this game in the future. It may not happen this year, although some of it is getting added this year, but not all of it. So let's get started with my additions to the game that I'd like to see added. Okay, the first thing that he needs to add to this game, like as soon as possible, like as soon as he gets the money, and he's already told me it's going to cost like $3,000 to get this feature added, is a AAA player model. A player model where we can put equipment, and I'll add all those kind of things, those fancy things that we like to see to have distinction between the players. And we need to have, of course, all the equipment that is available, in football. But a AAA player model, a player model that is going to look good, is going to be very appealing to everybody. That's the first thing he needs to get to invest in my opinion. He needs to invest in that. A new player model will go a long way towards appealing, especially since he's trying to get into the console place next year. He needs to add a player model first, in my opinion. He needs to add a better player model, that can have equipment added to it and all that kind of thing. Something that we're, more accustomed to seeing. I think the player model he's got right now is like $150 or something, he told me. So having a $3,000 player model or more would be a huge step towards getting this game to where he needs to go as far as a visual, aspect. Defensive back player logic. Okay, the defensive backs in this game, sometimes they stick to you like glue, but sometimes, when you throw the ball deep or something, they're just out of position most of the time, and it's like a coin flip. I've already talked to him about this. It needs to be more realistic, and of course, without the animations to go with the defensive backs, it's kind of hard to do this. So he kind of needs defensive back animations, and we need wide receiver and defensive back interactions to go with this. So it all goes hand in hand, but that's something that really needs to be tweaked. The defensive back AI, and I've talked to him about some other AI issues, but we're going to talk about the defensive back AI here. Like I said, sometimes they're too far back. If you're throwing it deep, like they're not smart enough to make a play on the ball or something, and I've seen broken down in coverage with the defensive backs. So I think that really needs to be looked at this year, possibly. I don't know if he can or not, because like I said, without the animations, it's going to be really hard to implement, the defensive backs the way we need them to be. But that definitely needs to be looked at. All right, so the next thing. The passing in this game is the flagship part of this game. I mean, I love the aim and passing, but it needs to be tweaked. It really needs to be tweaked because of the way the players move, the way they're jerky, and they're stiff. Like if you throw the ball and the guy goes to the ball, they turn on it, they stop on a dime and they run towards it like road runners. I mean, that's unrealistic. We need more smoothness. If I had to tell Danny about this part, we need more smoothness to the game, less jerkiness. I don't know how he's going to accomplish that though. There's no transitions between animations. It just stops. It needs to be more smooth, and we need to be able to catch the ball in stride. Of course, we need catching animations, all that kind of thing. So the passing game needs to be completely reworked in that part of how you have the defensive backs jerking and just the receivers jerking and just the animations in general. They just stop. I mean, of course, he doesn't have the animations, and we've talked about this already. He said, well, I'd add them if I had them, and he doesn't have them, so. But having that would add a lot. I mean, receiver cutting is another thing. I mean, we need to have receiver route running be a thing with statistics, and I've talked to NBC27 about this. But all this is in the passing game, and we need to have a completely revamped passing game. I love the circle. Don't get me wrong. I love the circle. I don't want that to change ever, but it just needs to be tweaked. It needs to be tweaked, overhauled in a way where, the animations work together with the passing. And we've already talked about how, if I throw the ball poorly, I want to see a guy dive for it if he's got, spectacular catch or whatever. And the addition of extra stats is another thing we need to talk about. But there's just so much that needs to be worked on. But that's another thing that really needs to be worked on really quickly is, the passing game just need to be reworked to add a better experience. And that word again, smoothness. Just to work on smoothness. If the key word here is smoothness, it needs to be smooth. It doesn't need to be jerky. All right, let's go to the next thing. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is a flaw in the game right now that really needs to be fixed because you seem to be helpless on defense, like especially in the secondary. We need user control for offense and defense. So what I mean by this is when we throw the ball, we need to be able to select that receiver and run him to a spot if we want to. This is something that I really want added here, and I'm sure it's everybody who plays this game and supports this game wants to have more user control. User control is the next thing I want to talk about. In Madden 08, I always praised the user control in that game because I always felt I was in control with the strafing and how I could get in position to make plays on offense and defense. I always felt I had control of the play. In Axis football, you don't have that feeling of, okay, I got complete control of this play. The defense is very poor right now. The defensive back, like I said, the secondary, you don't have control. You can run and hope you get to the spot. And you have to be right on the guy to either get an interception or knock it down. You really have no way of knowing if you're going to be in position or not. So the addition of a strafe in Axis would be great if you could actually control, getting in position to make a play, for the line. And this needs to be universal for linebackers and et cetera. We need to be able to strafe and backpedal with user control. User control. That's the key word here is user control. I want user control when I throw the ball and when I play defense. Right now, that's kind of not there. Well, it is not there on defense. I mean, it's a coin flip when you throw the ball and when they throw the ball and you're trying to get position. I mean, it needs to be looked at big time. So I want to have user control. When I throw the ball, I want to be able to select that receiver and run to the spot. Right now it's just automatically they run to the spot. But I want to have that control of, I want to be able to run to that spot and catch the ball. All this has to work together, guys. It's a long process, and I know that. But adding user control for defense and offense would go a long way to making this game feel more, enjoyable. Okay, so this next thing I'm going to talk about is going to be kind of quite surprising for you guys. You're probably not going to expect this next thing I'm going to say to be that big of a feature, but it's going to go in with a lot of other things. So we need penalties. We need penalties because without penalties, there's no consequence. And in simulation football, there's consequences when you go off sides or you have a defensive pass interference and it's late in the game and you're just trying to keep the offense back, but then they draw a pass interference and they get in field goal range. That kind of thing needs to be in the game. But I don't know how long this is going to take him to do, but penalties are huge, and that would add so much to this game, and it would add more features to the game like a play clock. Right now, there's a lot of complaints. On the forums, I see a lot of it. On the forums, I see it in posts about why we want a play clock. There's no play clock in the game right now. But having penalties and a play clock, would make sense. But having a play clock now doesn't make sense because there's no penalties. So why have a play clock if there's no penalties? And this would add more strategy. You can milk the ball more and all that kind of thing. So having a play clock is something that a lot of people want right now. And I've already talked to people on the forums about, well, we need penalties first. And that goes to the next thing. A fake cadence. We can't. There's no user control again with a cadence. We want to be able to draw people off sides, etc. And this could be tied into a defensive lineman statistic about is he going to be disciplined enough to stay home? And the same thing with the offensive line. Are they going to be disciplined to stay home? Even though they know the snap count in real life, they still jump off sides. So we need something like this where a fake cadence can be a strategic move. We could draw the defense off sides, kind of like Peyton Manning used to do. Like he would draw them off sides, with his cadence, and a lot of quarterbacks do this. So, But again, penalties must be added first. All these little features here, we need penalties first. So penalties must happen. Sending men in motion. Guys, I've already made a video about this, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. But having the ability to send a player in motion, and having the defense, react to that kind of thing would be huge. I love to exploit defenses, get matchups that I like, so with the ability to send people in motion, this would be very possible, to get matchups that we want. Stepping up in the pocket to get a smaller circle. In simulation football, I watch a lot of football, guys, and I see some quarterbacks don't step up a lot. Some will just stay flat-footed and they still throw good passes. But a lot of quarterbacks that are really, really good, like Tom Brady, you'll always see him try to step up in the pocket. Always. I mean, Carson Palmer, always trying to step up. I mean, the more you step up and get it away from the rush and you get more power in your throws, I want to be rewarded for that kind of thing. And, of course, we need animations for that. So that's something that, that's a work in progress. I don't know if he's going to be able to get that added anytime soon. So the next thing, adding hurdles and stiff arms and a shoulder charge to the player running backs and just all the players really, not just the running backs. It needs to be for everybody because sometimes wide receivers are strong too. Like big, strong wide receivers can stiff arm too. So we need stiff arms. We need hurdles and we need shoulder charges. Because right now you're limited to just elusive backs moves. We can only juke and spin and dive, and that's it. So we need to have a power move set, and a power move set would include a shoulder charge, stiff arms, and hurdles can be more elusive guys, but that's just something that's not in the game right now as well. So adding these three things would go a long way to adding a more dynamic user control and strategic things. If you're running down the sideline and you got that nice improved pursuit angle that Danny's implemented, now you can maybe stiff arm him away if your timing is just right. Right now you're running down the sideline, and because of the improved pursuit angles, you really have to just try to get back towards the middle of the field, and a lot of times that doesn't happen. But I'm not complaining about the pursuit angles. Don't get me wrong. I love the pursuit angles. And I'm glad he added it this year. That's a big improvement. But we need a way to be able to continue the play. So stiff arms, shoulder charges if we have a big back or big receivers. We need to be able to get more additional yardage that way. Additional things on the sidelines like just a visual thing like Gatorades and not actual Gatorades at copyright, but, just water buckets and just more things on the sidelines, like maybe an exercise bike, just things you would see in a real football game on the sidelines. Maybe a player coach. We got cheerleaders right now, but they're very limited right now, and they hardly ever animate. I've seen them jump a few times, but that's about it. But having them in different spots, like having a chain gang, for instance, would go a lot to adding to this game's presentation. If it's a short yardage situation and they think they got the first down, having them run out there and measure. 2K did this before, but that would go into the cutscene part. And we need cutscenes eventually, but that's in the future, guys. I'm not going to talk about that right now. But having a chain gang on the sideline and coming out to measure, that would be pretty cool. Now, this is something next I want to talk about. This really needed. And I don't know if it's going to come this year or not. I doubt it. He hasn't talked about it. Is play art. We need to be able to zoom out and look at the play. I've already talked about this before, but it's a very much needed feature because we need to be able to see what the play is. Some of us have bad memories or we forget what the route was and we have a specific route we want to throw to. So we need to have play art on the offense and defense. Defensive audibles. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he said this might come this year, but don't quote me on that. We don't have audibles on defense right now, only offense. So we need audibles on defense, and we need hot routes on defense. We've already talked about hot routes coming eventually. He's working on implementing that. So hot routes on defense and audibles on defense need to be a thing. And we also want to be able to set our audibles. This is something we can't do either. Before games, we want to have like a setup where, okay, I've already set my audibles. I know what they are. Have maybe 5 or 6 audibles on offense. Have 5 or 6 audibles on defense. And just have them set to where, we can select them. And that's in all kind of football games. So if he needed to, he could just reference how it works in other football games. Defensive line concepts. Okay, now the NBC 27 was talking about this, how we need to have like specific routes that the defensive linemen are going to go to if they're going to pinch, if they're going to spread out, or if they're going to crash to the left or to the right. There's no concepts for the defensive lines right now, so that would add a lot to the defensive line, plays and stuff like. An additional. Adding spread. How right now we can only shift to left and right on linebackers and defensive line. But I'd like to see the ability to spread your defensive line out. Right now we can only move them left to right, like I said, but spread them out, like fan them out, or pinch them. So, squeeze them in. So we can want to squeeze and we want to spread. So I want to see that as well on the defensive line. Okay, guys, this next one I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon because it's based on physics, and I'm not really sure about the physics in this game. But player momentum needs to be respected. We need to be able to fall forward more when we're running the ball, fighting for extra yardage. If a big player hits a small player, it needs to be impactful. It needs to be different than hitting a regular player of his size. Dragging players could be a cool thing. Even Tecmo Bowl had that, where you drag a guy a few yards if he was strong. Having momentum in the game really would matter. Having height, weight, momentum, all that kind of thing needs to be factored into the ratings. And that's going to take time, guys. I don't know. Madden's still trying to get it right, so it's not something that's going to happen overnight. But that's just another thing I thought I'd let him know about. Having players break the huddle. Right now, you select the play, you're already on the line. We want to have that slow pace where, you break the huddle, everybody goes to their positions, and it gives you just, time if you're milking the clock, you just slowly walk to the line, or you can, just take your time. In real life, this happens all the time. They break the huddle. And this would add a lot to the visual aspect of the game, too. Like, it would make it feel more like a football game. You break the huddle, you go to the line. Okay, guys, the next one. Oh, boy, this one right here, guys. I can't tell you how much I want to see this one in the game. But unlimited plays. Because this game is on PC, I'm kind of disappointed with the play selection. Oh, I'm very disappointed in it. Now, he's said he's going to add more plays this year, but I want to have the ability to add infinite plays. Play editor, being able to add more plays, and this would add so much to the game. Like if we make a Houston Oilers of the 94 Houston Oilers, we could, they ran the run and shoot, so I would make a whole playbook on run and shoot. This would add a lot to the game, a huge amount to the game. We could go in and we could modify all the teams' playbooks and have them have all kinds of different plays because right now everybody's got the same plays. Additional formations. The formations right now are very limited. They're bare bones. We need to have variations of different formations like I formation. We need to have twin I formation, big I formation. There's many examples here. I'm not going to get into it a lot. But that's something that really needs to be added. And it'd make me a very happy person. Okay, pancake blocks. Pancakes are not in the game right now, but there's something that needs to be added. I mean, you get a big offensive line that can dominate his man. Sometimes they'll put him on the ground. And that's called a pancake. So we need to see that in the game. Pancake blocks. Knock them to the ground. This could be done with wide receivers too. If they dominate their guy, just throw them to the ground. But yeah, I've talked to him about having the possibility of pancake blocks, but hopefully in the future. Improved handoffs. Now, I'm very thankful that he revamped the handoffs this year, but the one that he's got implemented is more like in a shotgun formation where you hand it off from the shotgun. It's not the stretch the ball out like we typically see to the running backs and that kind of thing, for play actions, and that's not in the game, and we need to have more improved handoffs. So I would revamp the handoffs. Keep the one that he's got for shotguns. Shotgun plays are that kind of handoff that he's got. So the handoff that he's got right now is more accustomed to the shotgun. You hand it off in the shotgun formation. Substitution packages, he said it's coming, but I'm not sure if it's coming this year or not, but he said it's coming. Maybe in the next update, so we're not going to talk about that much. Injuries. Oh, boy. This would go hand in hand, of course, with how you substitute. Substitutions coming next month, I think. Next update, next month, we're going to have a fatigue system implemented. But we need to have injuries. Injuries are a big thing in football. And there's always the uncertainty that your guy's going to go injured for the season or he may get injured for his career. There's that fear. Okay, I don't want to play this guy in the fourth quarter if we're winning 35-0. So I'm taking him out. I want to have that aspect in the game. And even further, I want to see, like, if we're preparing for a week, I want to be able to say, well, I don't really want to practice this guy because he might get injured. So I'm not going to play him that much. This could be worked on a lot, guys. This is just concepts that I have, in my head. But that would be huge. And I talked to him about, right now in the NFL, they're doing cuts and they're adding players to the practice squad. And I want to see a practice squad in this game. I want to see 10 more roster spots that, you can put in the game for every team, So if something happens, you can sign somebody off the player squad and have them get right in the game. That's something that I would like to see. Wind. Now, he said this is coming for 2017, but wind in the kicking game would go a long way to making the kicking game more rewarding and more satisfying. As I don't have to tell you guys what happened in the playoffs last year with that Vikings kicker. Oh, boy, Blair Walsh. He's going to live that up for the rest of his life. That meme with Ace Ventura is going to follow him wherever he goes. No matter what he does for the rest of his life, that will always follow him. So wind and weather have a big factor in kicking. But right now, there's no control. And this goes back to the user control again. We need to have user control for kicking. If I want to kick the ball more of a line drive, I want to be able to do that. If I want to kick it hang time, if I want to kick it higher, I can do that. If I want to squib kick it, I can do that. There's no arrow right now where we can kick in specific directions. It's just a power meter. So I'd like to see that added, hopefully, in the future. Moddable divisions. Okay, I know I'm jumping all over the place here, guys, but like I said, it's not in order, in any particular order. Moddable divisions. Right now, there are no way to have like your AFC East, your NFC East, your Pac-10. There's nothing like that. So you're always playing different people in the playoffs that you would not normally play. So I played Seattle in the playoffs before I played New England in the Super Bowl. That would never happen because the Dolphins are in the AFC. So I want to see moddable divisions next year. I think he said this is getting added, but I'm not sure. Tickers in franchise mode. Tickers are something that Madden finally just got back in the game after years being absent. It adds a lot of immersion. Tickers in the game would add a lot of immersion and like maybe have like so-and-so threw an 80-yard touchdown pass along with the score, like just the biggest play of the game. That would add a lot to this game and immersion. But Madden's still trying to get it right, so that's a work in progress. Player of the week, players of the week, are our thing. If a player has an outstanding week in franchise mode, he needs to be recognized for it, or an AFC player of the week, or et cetera, et cetera. Of course, he can't really do that because it's not NFL licensed, but having a player of the week would be good enough. Moddable trophies, of course, we want to be able to put the college football trophy or the NFL Super Bowl trophy in there. We want to have kind of something like that. This next one, guys, oh boy. I've talked to him about this, and I've actually made a video about this, but players moving before the snap. On defense, they're just sitting there. They're just sitting there. They don't move, so they don't make adjustments before the snap. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see if a cornerback moves up to pinch, to jam a wide receiver. I say, okay, I'm going to try to go deep because, he's trying to jam this guy. My receiver's better than his defensive back. I'm going to try to go deep here. So that kind of strategic element to the game, would go with that. If you could have players moving before the snap. Player creator. Now, I don't know if this is coming anytime soon, and this is a work in progress, like I say, but having players have distinct differences like dreadlocks. Todd Gurley has dreads. People have dreads in the football. I mean, that's just the thing. It's a very common thing for football players to have dreads. So having dreads would go a long way, is adding, a little more realism. Okay, this next one, flipping the kickoffs. I don't like the way the kickoffs are right now, and in fact, the blocking isn't very good either. On the kickoffs, he needs to look at that. The blocks hold the blocks too long on kickoffs. So I'd like to see that changed a little bit and flip the kickoffs to where we can actually see what's in front of us. And, so when you catch the ball, you're not running down, you're running up. We've already talked about this extensively, but yeah, flipping the kickoffs is a must. This next one's minor, but it would add some more realism. Left-handed players and kickers. So really the quarterbacks and kickers are the only ones you're really going to notice. So I would say just focus on the quarterbacks and the kickers for left-handed players. But if you really wanted to go all out, make it for all the players. That would have to be an additional stat added and all that kind of thing. So that would take a while to get added, I think. But that'd be something cool. So guys like Sackmaster can live their Tebow dreams again. Because Tebow's left-handed, Michael Vick is left-handed. So, that's a thing. Some players are left-handed, so it's nice to be respectful. Sebastian Janikowski, he's left-handed. There's all kind of left-handed players out there. So having the ability to have left-handed players, something I like to see. Player portraits, we've already talked about this in another video, but having the ability to see players' pictures, we can add our own pictures to the game. Just having more player information would go a long way in this game. We don't have any player info right now. Like if we're in franchise mode, I want to be able to see the picture. I want to be able to see statistics about the player and all that kind of thing. Presentation in the game obviously needs a lot of work. In-game statistics, drive summaries, a passing chart like Madden, or not Madden, 2K used to have. Like it would show like, oh, he's struggling to throw the ball in certain sections. That kind of thing would go a long way. But drive summaries, we need to have that, be able to reference that after the game and during the game. Celebrations after sacks and touchdowns. Of course, we don't have celebrations right now, but that would go a long way as well. And customizing the celebrations would be awesome. I just want to be able to select, okay, I want to be able to dunk the goalpost. That's frowned upon in the NFL now, but whatever. Player chatter, it's something I'd like to see, but it's not something must have, but it would add a lot to the game. It's still that realism thing. Moddable equipment, I don't know how he would be able to do this, but that would be cool if we could modify equipment so we could have our own, without having to worry about copyright, we could just mod it. Quarterback slides. Okay, there's no quarterback sliding in the game, and that's a big thing. So if you're running with the quarterback, I want to be able to slide. So the way you can do this is just hold the button for dive when you're the quarterback and just slide. Slide in. You can maybe even do it for receivers and stuff. If they, I've seen them slide down too. So that would add a lot. Red zone statistics. If if a team's been in the red zone a lot, or not been in the red zone for a lot, like if they just got in the red zone in the fourth quarter, say, oh, this is their first time in the red zone today. That could add to the commentary too. And I've talked to Danny about this, but improved commentary. I'm working on writing some, and hopefully you guys can add some more to it too. Just talk to Danny. Uniform previews. Okay, right now there are no ways to preview the uniforms. It would be nice to be able to, see what you're going to be wearing for the game. But, that's something that, we've talked about, and it's not something huge, but it would add a lot in there. Like if there's so much customization with the uniforms right now, so we could have old school uniforms and everything, but it'd just be nice to see like a little preview of the team wearing it. Just have a little player just in like a little box or something. Madden does this, so maybe just reference that. Sound modding. Oh boy. The beauty about having a game on PC is you can mod it, and having sound mods would go a long way. For the sound in this game is very mediocre, so having the ability to modify, after you score a touchdown, we can have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers cannons go off, or the whistles and stuff. There's lots of things like the horn in Minnesota. There's lots of things we could add, college football chants. Sound mods could go a long way to adding adding a lot to this game, and something that Madden wouldn't be able to compete with because they can't do that because they're not on PC. They need to come back to PC, but we know that's not going to happen ever again. Training camp, that could go into franchise mode, like I say, having players struggle to make a team, all that kind of thing. There's just so much to talk about, guys, but that's just some of the things I'd like to see. Hang timer on punts. There needs to be more distinction with the punts too. I don't like the way the animation is with the punter, and having hang time on the punts. Some punters are real good at hang time and coffin cornering and all that kind of thing. So I'd like to see a hang time meter on punts. I think that just about does it for my list. But there's still so much to talk about, guys. But as I get more ideas and things, I'll make more videos. But this has been already a 35-minute long video. But hopefully y'all made it through the end and can give y'all's feedback on some of this stuff. But I'll be making more videos shortly, and hope to see you guys next time. Make sure to give Danny your feedback, and let's just try to make this game as best we can. You can make a difference.